Welcome back to another episode of Meredith with a Y. I am your host, Meredith Willits, and today I'm going to be talking about this concept of fear and hate because I think that we're just seeing it absolutely everywhere and we have no idea how to get ourselves out of it, but I might have an idea, so stay with me. Hello, everyone. This is Meredith with a Y, and I am your host, Meredith Willits. Today, we are going to go deep, changing lives, and I am giving you the keys to the castle. Forgive my computer glitch here today. My daughter took my computer with her to school today, so I'm on my husband's and I'm not used to it. So, little glitches here and there, but no one ever died from a glitch, I hope. Anyways, so I really have been thinking about the duality and the divisiveness that we are seeing today, not only in the United States, but in families and around the world, to the point where people are am actually muted. Interesting. Sorry. So we're just seeing so much divisiveness. And I sit here quite often, to be honest with you, thinking about God, how can we fix this? What can we do to help families, to help communities, to help the United States and around the world to become a more connected and interwoven place? And I think before we can do that, we need to figure out, how did we get here in the first place? And so I've always wondered, you know, how different human beings are created, how an abuser is created, how you can stop that type of mentality. And I first saw this a long time ago on Facebook. Well, I saw this in my childhood growing up, but then I saw it in adulthood on Facebook. And I always, as humans do, believe that everyone is kind of like me. I know how I am. I know how I see the world. And I figure everyone's just sort of like me because that's the only perspective I have. And then I was on Facebook one time and someone was talking about corporal punishment for children. And someone that I know very well and have known since childhood commented, "This is why kids are so screwed up these days, because they do not have corporal punishment." And I was like, wow, like that's that's interesting because I was hit as a child and it was very normalized. And now I'm a Gen X kid. And it was something that parents did. Pulling hair, hitting, wooden spoons, pancake turners, you name it. That was the norm of raising a Gen Xer. Not all Gen Xers dealt with this, but many did. And to see another Gen Xer comment that this was a positive way to parent their kids and that they believe in this sort of thing really shocked me. And as I watched people, humans, adults, and the way that they saw the world, that once a person I knew was abused, and then that abused person became the abuser. And I thought that that was very interesting because I look at the world as, wow, I've experienced that. And now I don't want to do it to anyone else ever. But this is not how people are sometimes. And this is why I believe that we are where we are today. Okay, so stay with me on this because I think I've cracked the code, at least to some degree. So, I, Meredith, value people not being hurt. I don't want to hurt people's feelings. Now, in my life, I have hurt people's feelings and I have done hurtful things, but that is not the core of who I am. Okay. It is the actions I have taken, but at the core of who I am, when I've gotten rid of my toxicity and alcohol and out of control and lack of self worth, I returned back to, ooh, we're getting even deeper here. This is good. And so I believe that people that are in a space of hate and in a space of fear, I don't care what, okay? They are aligning themselves with something that is familiar to them that they either want to step away from based on their current healing state, their healing process. They are in the process of healing away from low self-esteem, low self-worth, things of that nature, or they are aligning themselves with the abuser so as to not be abused again. Okay? So growing up in an abusive situation, you either align with the abuser so as to align with never being abused again, right? So, like, if you watch dad hit mom and dad hits you, you are more likely to try and align with either your mother, which, in your view, from a child's perspective, may be the weaker side, or you're going to align yourself with your father, the abuser, so that you can kind of suck up to the abuser, hoping that will keep you safe. And this is where we are today. We are either aligning ourselves with the abuser to keep ourselves safe, or the abused seen as a weakness. Now, there are many levels and reasons and things that go into this. Education, ability to withstand change, intelligence, IQ, openness to new, thoughts and ideas, etc. But I do believe that regardless of anything else that is going on in a person's life, one's values, one's stage of healing, and one's degree of separation from an abusive situation is where those people fall in hate and fear. That I do believe. I do believe that. And that is why that where we are at today politically is so divisive, because you either have the abuser or the abused, and there is no gray area. You're either aligning with weakness, you're aligning with what you believe to be weakness, you're aligning with people that are you know LGBTQ plus, you're, crackpots and, people that are just loosey goosey and, tree huggers and, where anything goes, or you are aligning with very stringent black and white thinking. And that leads me to my next thing here is you are either that of a black and white thinker, or you are someone that sees shades of gray. I see shades of gray. My father, he's a criminal defense attorney and was always very open with me about some of the people that he defended that were murderers, rapists, and worse. And I was privy to a lot of concepts of things like, well, this person was abused as a child, sexually, physically, emotionally, mentally, they were starved, they were whatever. And then, they went on to be a murderer. Now, granted, not everyone that's abused, obviously, thank the Lord, becomes a murderer, because we'd have just 90% of society would be murderers. But like I always say, the difference between myself and a serial killer is opportunity and values. And so, you know, there's people that are out there that, in my view, if you watch, these shows that talk about murderers or serial killers and how horrific their childhoods were, where they were just, molested by their mothers, abused by their fathers, just horrific things. And it screws up their brain. They've already proven that being in a relationship with a narcissist causes actual brain damage. Well, imagine doing this day in and day out, every single day, being burnt by cigarettes, etc. So I was privy to hearing about the in-depth gray of murderers and rapists. And so I began to understand that people aren't born murderers, that they are created. And so growing up inside of that very gray area and seeing that this isn't just, the person isn't hatched. They're not just hatched. None of us are hatched. We're all created. We're all programmed. We're all socialized. We're all, created into the adults that we are. Some of us have lower IQs. Some of us are just broken in half when we're children, and their brain cracks and they can't get out of it, whatever the thing is. And then there's other of us that are born into the socialization and the programming of black and white. You're either good or you're bad, period, end of story, death penalty. And so when I'm looking at the mentality behind a lot of the individuals that you are either a man or you're a woman. You're either good or you're bad. You're either a murderer or you're not. It's either this way or that. There is no deeper thinking. And I believe when you see gray, when you see shades of gray, you are a deeper thinker. You understand that there is cause and effect. You understand that there are layers to people. There are layers to behavior. There are layers to intelligence. And I had to have this conversation with someone I love very much, and a long time ago, and they didn't believe me. And so they were thrown into a life where they were able to experience the layers of gray inside of humanity. And they have learned from that and evolved as a person, now realizing that when you sit on top of a throne inside of white supremacy, masculine white supremacy, and you look out over the planet, it's very easy to judge, and when you get deep and steeped into society and you see, oh, well, that person is actually a really nice person. They just have a very low IQ, but they show up to work and they're a very hard worker, but their IQ just happens to be lower. And that's why they aren't making $500,000 a year. And not everybody has the same level of education, and not everybody had the same parents and the same experiences and the same food growing up and the same, all of the things. And so not everybody has the same opportunity to be, take care of themselves. Maybe they're sickly, maybe they're in the hospital all the time, whatever. And so I think that when you are able to begin to see shades of gray, you are able to see shades of gray, you are more apt to understanding humanity and getting out of the black and white thinking. And so people also that have black and white thinking tend to not apologize, because they are either right when they did it the first time, and now that you've explained to them what they've done, they are not wrong. They are still within the limits of right. Fun people. And so these folks do not apologize. So there really is almost like this, cut and paste, if you will, for people that align themselves with the bully. It is black and white. There are no shades of gray. It is right or wrong. It is either good or bad, etc. They have a hard time with change. They have a hard time with realizing that they are wrong, because it's a sign of weakness. And these people also that are living inside of fear and hate, they also see weakness or vulnerability or apologizing or admitting that they're wrong as a weakness. And as we've already discussed, weakness means someone's going to be mean to you. Someone might bully you. Someone might abuse you again. And for someone that has either witnessed or gone through abuse, they are not willing to put themselves into that predicament ever again for any reason, not for anyone else. They will not put themselves into a position of being abused again for their children, for their spouse, for their government, for anyone on this planet. They are aligning with winners, or what they have been told is a winner, for what they believe to be the winner. Because in the black and white thought process brain of abusers and of people that are abused, of winners and losers and right and wrong, they can't go there ever again. They cannot succumb to being abused ever again. It's too scary. It's too volatile. And they are never getting into that position again, ever, for any reason. And so they stay on the side of the abuser, the bully. And I get it. I truly understand. I truly understand what it must be like to witness abuse or to endure abuse and recognize that weakness will put you there again, that vulnerability will put you there again. Apologizing will put you in the seat of being abused again. But I'm here to tell you there isn't anything further from the truth, at least in the long run. In my world, being strong is being vulnerable. There's literally nothing scarier than being wrong, than apologizing, than sharing your feelings, than admitting that you've done something. There's nothing scarier. It's easy to be like, oh, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm correct, whatever. It's hard to walk up those stairs, open your kid's bedroom door, and apologize for being a jerk, for apologizing for going off the handle, for apologizing for yelling, or for, hey, I was wrong. I was wrong. I did this wrong. That's hard. That's not easy stuff. It's easy to walk up the steps and go, well, they were wrong. I was right. But when you live in a world of grays and you can see, well, they did this, they explained that, then it was this, then it was that. That makes sense. I see where they're coming from. That's not easy to admit as a parent to your child, to your 10-year-old, your 5-year-old, your 17-year-old, your 30-year-old. I was wrong. That's not easy stuff to do. You have to put your head down, your tail between your legs, and say, you were right, young child, and I was wrong. That's not easy stuff. But there's nothing more worth it in this life than doing just that. Nothing more worth it. You create well-rounded kids that apologize and own their shit. They own their shit with their children. They own their shit with their partners, with their bosses, with their friends. They don't walk around with a suit of armor on, blocking out the world because they are right at all cost. It actually shows a low intelligence to always be right. You can't be that smart. And so to walk around always being right shows you're not learning anything. You're not vulnerable enough to learn. You're not smart enough to learn anything. And these people die alone. These people die alone because bullies and mean people that live in a state of fear and lack of vulnerability and lack of taking accountability for the shit that they do, they don't keep friends very long. Because bullies plus bullies, that's two alphas. And as we've learned from the person who created the alpha the alpha book, what, 20, 30 years ago, is that the alpha is actually the beta. An alpha is only created when they are in captivity. An alpha is only created when that alpha is in captivity. So if you are an alpha, if you align yourself with alpha behavior, if you tell people, I'm the alpha, if you act alpha, it is because you are in some sort of captivity, and I promise you that captivity is in your mind. A beta is where it's at because they're vulnerable. They apologize. They take accountability. They're in a constant state of learning. They live within the grays of the world. They don't fear things because they choose to decide to learn and understand. They choose to decide to learn and understand. They choose to have compassion. They choose love. They don't need to be the smartest person in the room. The one thing I learned, if you go back and listen to my podcasts on avoidant attachment, which was the most profound learning experience of my life, almost 2 years ago now, maybe 2 years, when I learned about avoidance attachment, what was actually going on is fear. I was afraid of being hurt. I was afraid of not being the smartest person in the room. I was afraid of not being the world's greatest friend. I was afraid of not being liked by everyone. Because when you are not a people pleaser, people might take their love from you. And when you are abused, there's nothing worse than being alone. There's nothing worse than being unloved. There's nothing scarier than being unloved or have someone removing their love from you. And so you try to do everything right and you become the biggest liar in the room. You lie to everyone. You're honest with nobody. I believe that the majority of the people that are in a state of fear are actually in a state of fear of being unloved, a fear of being alone, a fear of being wrong, a fear of not being the smartest person in the room. That's the fear. That's the fear. A fear of being less than, a fear of not being perfect. Show me a control freak, and I will show you someone that's afraid. Because when you are a control freak, you are trying to manage and mitigate everything. Because if everything's perfect, you can survive. If everything is perfect, you've done your job for today and you are worthy of love. You guys, see, this shit's easy. The shit makes sense. It's not that difficult. You have people that are afraid and have hate and they're scared. And so they're trying to control everything. They have low self-esteem. There's no shades of gray. It's black or white. It's right or wrong. It's I'm the smartest person in the room. I'm the alpha. I'm the alpha. Because if you're an alpha, you're in captivity. And so you have to ask yourself, what's the captivity? Hate and fear, needing to be perfect. And then you'll see these same people who say they need to be perfect or, oh, I don't have to be anything like what you're talking about. You're completely wrong. And if you notice in that statement, they're completely right still. No aptitude for learning about self. No aptitude or room for being wrong ever. They will die on these hills. I'm to the point in my growth and healing, I am not willing to die on any hill anymore. Because as soon as I'm like, I am willing to die on that hill, I'm going to find something out and go, yeah, I was wrong. I was definitely wrong. Please, please live in a space where you're willing to be wrong. Because anything else is wildly controlling and insanely, insanely unintelligent. If you are not willing to listen to somebody tell you their opinion, that means you've attached your ego so anchored in. You have so anchored in with your belief system that you are blind. Blind. I literally talk to dead people. I know I do it. And you know how I know I do it? Because my clients are telling me that I'm doing it on shit that I could not possibly know. I couldn't know these things. I couldn't. And they're like, "Oh my god." I just had a client the other day. I'm like, "I keep seeing this woman sitting on a couch with a fluffy white dog. What's going on?" And she's like, "That's this person." I don't know that person. I don't know what their dog looks like. I don't know that this is going on. I have no freaking clue. But they tell me that it is. They tell me that it is. And I'm still open to someone proving me wrong. I'm still open to someone asking me questions. I'm not above being questioned. I'm not above having someone say, "Have you ever thought of this?" No, I haven't. Thank you. But these people that are black and white and fear and have to align themselves with a reality and are so close minded to everything because out of fear, they have aligned their ego, who they are as a person, to a idea system, to ideologies. Their entire ego, their entire persona, their entire way of living and behaving is attached to their politics, to their religion, to their black and white thinking. Abuse of children is okay. Keep beating your kids. I turned out all right. No, you didn't. If you need to abuse a 5, 6, 7, 8, 13-year-old, you are ineffective. You are parenting by fear instead of leadership and inspiration. But maybe I'm wrong. I'm open to listening to you. Tell me what you think. Tell me why you think that taking a wooden spoon and whacking a 6-year-old creates great human beings. I'm open. And so I ask you, are you in a place where you are incapable of seeing the other side, incapable of learning anything else, incapable of breaking down your ego, breaking down the walls that you have created to keep yourself safe, that you are stuck. People are losing family. People are losing family. There is not a day that goes by that I don't see on social media. I have blocked my parents because they voted for the other side. I can't be around them anymore. They're so hateful. All they do is watch the news day in and day out. They are stuck. This is breaking up extended families. It is breaking up marriages. We are so steeped inside of this. We are losing each other. We are losing the very foundation. And I have talked about this before when it comes to religion. If your religion tells you to disown your children based on the doctrine of that religion, it is a cult. Period. Period, 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 period. If your religion tells you to alienate someone based on your religious doctrine, you are in a cult. Same holds true for politics. And I kind of think we're all in a cult. And it's sickening. It's gross to watch it. It's sad. But I get it. I understand it. Because when you watch your family members hate and take away the rights of people and take away freedoms, it's hard not to see that as who they are. But I want to go further. And that's what this podcast is saying. Go further, go deeper into the gray. Your parents that voted in that way is aligning themselves with the abuser because they don't ever want to be abused again. And they think if they align themselves with the abuser, it will keep them from abuse. And I get it. I understand it. They think they're special. If I wear this t-shirt, if I wear this hat, I am immune from that abuse. But what we are learning from the farmers, what we are learning from people every single day for the past month is no one is ever safe from the bully. If you've ever been a child, that means you probably went through middle school. And if you've ever gone through middle school, you've been in some sort of a clique. And if you've ever been in some sort of a clique, you've been at the mercy of the queen bee or the king bee or whatever you want to call it. And you've been in this clique and you are only as good as your last interaction with the queen or the king. Because your last interaction is how much you know about how close your connection is to the queen. Because all it takes is another friend in that friend group to align themselves with the queen and you're out. That's how bullies work. That's how kings and queens work. You're only as good to them as what you can offer. And if someone offers more, you're out. And unfortunately, in this political landscape, we're all out. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter who you are. I promise you, you cannot have enough money and get out of this. You could not have donated enough and get out of this. You might think you are immune because you're rich. You might think that you're immune because you don't touch government thing. You don't have to access government funds or government contracts. But there is no escaping karma. And all karma is the energy that you put out comes back to you. It's just science. That's just the way it is. That's the way the universe works. The universe is always fair. Always fair. It always works out. It always is working out. It's the greatest truth teller, balance generator, period, is the universe. Not in punishment, but in teaching. You're never being punished. You're always being directed. You're always being taught. But I'm here to tell you. It will touch you. It will. It can't not. It will touch you in some way. Somehow, whatever you do will touch you. And you're only as good as your last contact. And your last contact is over. Because a bully is a bully. They will always find someone. They need someone. It's how they get their life's breath, is through bullying. And an abuser is an abuser is an abuser. No one can escape it. Doesn't matter. And so I ask you over this next day, over this next week, ask yourself, have I aligned myself out of fear of being abused? Have I aligned myself because I want to be on the winning side? Because the losers are weak. The losers apologize. The losers are vulnerable. Have I aligned myself with my ego attachment so strong that I am unwilling to learn? I am unwilling to be open. Ask yourself these questions. Are you that stuck? And are you in a cult? Are you in a cult? The only way out of this is love. And I know the people, if they are even still listening at this point, God willing, they hear the word love and they think that that's weak. But the funny thing is the very people that think that what I'm saying is weak are the very people who need love the most. So there you have it. That's my 2 cents for this week. I hope it made some sense to you. I hope it makes you understand your friends and your family just a little bit more, to understanding where their head's at. I can't imagine that I'm wrong, but of course I'm open to it. Feel free to email me at meredithwillits@gmail.com or message me anywhere you find me on social media, Meredith with a Y or Meredith Willits. And I will see you guys here next week. So have a good one. Thanks for listening. If you would like to connect on a more personal level, head over to meredithwillits.com or on Instagram at Meredith with a Y for behind-the-scene footage and outtakes. Please subscribe and come back each week for more Meredith with a Y. Thanks again for listening. Cheers.